Hey guys, it's Drew again. Do the names Lawrence, Richard, or Leroy mean anything to you? Well, today we're going to be talking about nicknames in baseball, the good, the bad, and the Yogi. Let's check it out. So if you watched my video last week, I did a video on a player named Wilmer Mizell, who had one of the coolest nicknames that I had ever heard. It was Vinegar Bend. And Vinegar Bend sort of sounds, kind of cool and nasty like a pitch or whatever. It was actually the name of the town that he played his first professional baseball in. But it got me thinking about other nicknames within baseball. And there has been all sorts of them. There's been ones that are intimidating, ones that are cool, ones that are kind of weak, ones that don't do well over time, ones that are vague, and of course ones that are just forgotten. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but I thought what I would do is just kind of go through some of the ones that just stuck in my mind, show you some cards and some different items that are sort of representative of some of these players. So I started thinking about some of the coolest ones, and one of the coolest ones, and I don't have anything of this player, not playing days at least, was Jimmy Fox. And Jimmy Fox, of course, played almost 100 years ago, if you can believe he started nearly 100 years ago his career. But he had two nicknames that, in my opinion, just lasted the test of time. One was the Beast. I mean, the Beast. How intimidating is that? Now, if you've seen pictures of Jimmy Fox, he was huge. Big arms, huge shoulders, big hands, was a power hitter and just feared as a right-handed hitter way back in the day. So the Beast was just so perfect as far as somebody that was intimidating, that would just destroy the baseball. And it was just such a great nickname. And honestly, if that was a brand new nickname that gave to somebody today, a big power hitter, it would be so fitting. But his other one was Double X, and of course that just came from his last name being spelled Foxx. But it's just kind of cool. It's got sort of a nasty feel to it, Double X, and you can't really do that with a whole lot of other letters. For instance, the great home run hitter Hank Aaron. If they called him Double A, I mean that doesn't really sound very good. It's a battery. But of course Hank Aaron was Hammer and Hank, and how cool is Hammer and Hank? Again, it just shows a power. It shows a destruction feel to what he could do to a baseball with a bat. And so the Beast or Hammer and Hank, just great names. Other ones that sort of describe a player and what they could do. It just sort of stays on with time. For instance, Brooks Robinson, the human vacuum cleaner. The guy was unreal. You can go find clips all over YouTube of what he could do at third base. And it was just insane. The human vacuum cleaner, not a ball could get past him because he was so good with his glove and fielding. And Brooks Robinson being the human vacuum cleaner, what a great name. Other ones that were more involved on from where they were. So, for instance, in New York City in the 50s, the sort of the heyday and the centerpiece of baseball and Americana, you had Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Well, Duke was Duke Snyder, or actually Edwin was his real name. But the Duke, it just had a feel for just kind of a cool feeling. And of course, his nickname was the Duke of Flatbush, and Flatbush was the area in Ebbets Field where the Brooklyn Dodgers played. And what a kind of cool name that would be. Another intimidating one, two power pitchers that overlapped. Well, they didn't actually overlap, but very close to it. The first one, the great lefty, Sandy Koufax, the left arm of God. What a great, inspiring, and just sort of awe-struck name, the left arm of God. The guy was incredible with what he could do, and he had one of the most incredible runs in baseball history as far as dominance as a pitcher. And followed shortly after he retired, you've got Nolan Ryan, and Nolan Ryan being the Nolan Express. The guy could just flat out throw bullets. And Nolan Ryan being the Ryan Express. Other great ones, and I didn't pull cards out of this from when I grew up. The Big Hurt. Frank Thomas was still is a massive man, and he could just destroy people I remember a commercial that had him on it, and it was just such a cool commercial. I don't even remember what the product was for, but it was the thought process of a catcher who was about to receive the ball, and Frank Thomas is coming down the line, and he's about to bowl over him, and you've got this inner monologue going, and they said, if you don't want to get hit, get off the tracks. And the Big Hurt, I mean, what a great nickname. Randy Johnson, the Big Unit, that's kind of a cool thing. Again, he was so tall and intimidating with his form and his look and everything else. It was just an intimidation factor. But then you get into nicknames that honestly just didn't go over time. I mean, I understand that way back, newspapers would have to do something, and they would give these monikers out, and then it ended up on radio, and then finally in TV, where announcers and newspapermen were just, trying to invoke certain feelings. But you got Ted Williams, who, when he came up, was a skinny kid, but he could hit the ball like no one other. And so they called him the Splendid Splinter. And I thought, what a stupid nickname. I mean, and I know it's my opinion, and I'm not putting down Ted Williams and his ability or his career. But first of all, a splinter is annoying. It's tiny, and you just kind of want to get rid of it. So, but he didn't seem like the kind of player that was just annoying. He was like a force on the baseball field. And being splendid, I mean, that's like something a drink might be, or just the way something is decorated. Oh, this looks splendid, this table display. So the Splendid Splinter doesn't really invoke the same sort of fear as, say, Al Habrowski, the Mad Hungarian. I mean, how cool is that name? If I had a team of nicknames, I would want a Mad Hungarian much before I would want a Splendid Splinter. Another one that I've never quite got was Joe DiMaggio. Now, Joe DiMaggio kind of had two that went through his career. You've got Joltin' Joe DiMaggio, which has got this nice feel to it as you say it. And, of course, in the song, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio. And that sounds cool, a jolt, like a bolt of lightning. And that's kind of... But then you've got the Yankee Clipper. And I understand he was a Yankee and he was smooth. But if you don't know, the Yankee Clipper, it was a ship and has nothing to do with baseball. I don't know. I'd never quite understood the Yankee Clipper outside. Oh, he's a Yankee, and here's something that has the word Yankee in it. Let's put it together. So maybe the new Yankee Workshop? It doesn't make sense either. But, Joltin' Joe, good. Yankee Clipper, not so much, at least in my opinion. And then you've got guys that they had their name, their birth name, and that comes to the title of this video. And but over time, through stories and other things, they're now known as something else. So I started out this video, and first I talked about Richard. Well, Richard would be Richard Gossage. And of course, later he would be known as Goose. And I don't know, it just has a cool name. Here's a ball that I got signed by him. And just Goose Gossage. By the way, great signature too, love it. But Goose Gossage just sounds so much better than Richard. And I'm not putting down anybody by the name of Richard, but as far as a nickname, Richard's great. And then also you've got Leroy, old Leroy Page. Well, Leroy became known, of course, as Satchel Paige. And the Satch, or Satchmo, I've said that. In fact, that's how my wife refers to this card. This is the card that she got me years ago. And she describes it as Satchmo, and I think it's kind of cool. It's got kind of a cool feeling, a good story, and just a little bit more, I don't know, more friendly, not friendly, but just more fun than just Leroy. And again, nothing wrong with the name Leroy, but Satch Paige, Satchel Paige, Satchmo, oh man, just so good, so good. And then finally, the last one I want to talk about is Lawrence, or Larry Berra, but of course you would know him as the great Yogi Berra, one of the most underrated players in baseball history, by the way, just my opinion. But Larry Berry or Lawrence Berry, I don't know, he sounds like a band director or something, but Yogi, that sort of just somehow encapsulated who he was. It encapsulated, the quips that he would come up with, the way he controlled the field, his personality, even his looks, who, of course, was not one of the... well, he wasn't Mickey Mantle as far as the looks are concerned, but Yogi Berra, it sort of fits, and it fits his personality, and I just thought, it's so much fun. So what are some of the other great ones out there? I mean, The Wizard of Oz, how amazing is that? So obvious from a movie from the 30s and a book from before that, finally gets placed on a shortstop in the 80s or 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it was so perfect because it was so good with Ozzie Smith being the Wizard of Oz. Or the Man of Steel, again, a moniker that came from Superman in the comics that started back in what, the 30s, 40s, I don't even know, all the way up, but it finally made sense when Ricky Henderson comes along, the Man of Steel. They change one little letter in it and it makes so much more sense to show him. Or you've got the Iron Horse with Lou Gehrig, or the Iron Man being Cal Ripken Jr. There's so many great nicknames out there. So put some in the comments, guys I haven't mentioned. I just really love the nicknames in baseball. It makes it fun, and it makes it just gives it so much more personality and story to it. So I hope you enjoyed some of this stuff. I really appreciate you coming along, and until next time, you guys be good.